Too many labor agitations within a short period. Now, while striking pharmacists at public hospitals say they will completely withdraw their services, including emergency services, if government does not meet their demands by close of work Wednesday.
In the 10 days, if you don't hear anything from government, we are going to activate another phase where it's going to be total withdrawal of all services. In addition to that, we have other arsenals up our sleeves we don't want to give to the public now.
Teachers of colleges of education are also striking to call for recognition and proper placement on the pay structure. What is accounting for the chain of strikes? We'll be finding out shortly from the striking groups and get some responses from government, plus some recommendations from labor consultants. This is today's big story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. The Government Hospital Pharmacists Association GOSPA says its 10-day ultimatum to government ends Wednesday. GOSPA says it will be withdrawing emergency as well as inpatient services from tomorrow with the hope that government will give in to their demands. We can listen to the association's General Secretary, Oriafio Uso Emmanuel, who spoke earlier on the polls.
Government is not giving much attention to our issues, and they are not appreciating the fact that we are essential service workers and issues that pertain to us need to be exercised with some level of emergency so that things can properly be sorted out. We have not had any communication with government as at day 9 of this strike.
Nothing at all?
Not to our notice. Does
this not say something about your action and how appropriate or not it is? Because if you're saying that you provide an essential service, yes, you have your demands, but do you consider the one who's suffering at your expense?
Well, we do appreciate the patients we attend to, and that is the very reason why we have alluded to 6 years of negotiations, I mean, without trying to even disturb the labor front in one way or the other. And that is the very reason why government has to attach some level of importance to this and try to bring issues to a finality. You can't be negotiating with a government, you can't be meeting government when government seems to have a very rigid position not to really deal with your issues. And it's very, very unfortunate looking at the very essential services we provide as pharmacists.
Is it also because you've given them a very small window for negotiations where you say that it has to be your way or the highway?
That has never been the situation, and it has not been so. You see, when we protested, or when we petitioned the interim market premium since its introduction, the point we made was very clear. Fair Wages and Salaries Commission mandated to see to the implementation of the single spine pay policy are supposed to have one basic thing, and that is equal remuneration for equal work. And here we are talking about public sector pharmacists. And so if you're a pharmacist in one organization of government and you are another one is in another organization, they ought to be equally remunerated. And this is the situation we are saying that those of us in the Ghana Health Service and the Ministry of Health have been placed on a premium starting from 0.58, whilst our colleagues in the university hospitals and some other organizations are on a premium one of 1.14, and that is purely, I mean, inequity.
No, okay, you call it inequity, but have you bothered to ask what went into this grading and where they put you and why they put you there?
Grading for pharmacists, and even for that matter the whole of the public service, was of course through a conscious process where job evaluations was done, PricewaterhouseCoopers evaluation results, etc. came through. But not to be even believe at that point. As I said, when Fair Wages and Salaries Commission initiated this process, we petitioned. It went through a system where at a point in time a cabinet subcommittee was set up. this committee, through various investigations, came out with the overwhelming recommendations that we have seen from all the hearings, including the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission themselves, that GOSPA members, that is, members of the Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association, have not been treated fairly. So Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, just go ahead, implement this premium of 1.14 for them, just as their colleagues in other governmental institutions, and then on their grade structure and placement, start them from 18H and then cascade the grade, the level upwards up to the consultant grade. But this, unfortunately, has not been implemented.
So you raised this issue 6 years ago?
Yes, it started from then. Okay,
so if for 6 years you've been at this and you've not pushed hard enough for what you require, and then 6 years down the line, I'm a patient, I walk to Kolebu in dire need of medication, I'm told, sorry, you can't get the service. Why? Because GOSPA has been negotiating for something for 6 years, they've not received it, and so they've closed shop because of that.
I'm happy you talked about we did not push hard enough. Yes, at those times we seemed to, in order to still be at the good front of caring for our patients, just receiving verbal assurances from government.
So now you don't care who dies?
Not exactly so. We are saying we can no more work with mere verbal assurances from anybody in government. We cannot work with that.
Mr. Rafi, you are a pharmacist.
Sure.
You agree that you provide an essential service. Sure. The lives of people are in your hands at any point when they come to buy a drug. You appreciate that, don't you?
Sure.
So, are you considering the people who are suffering and may die as a result of your actions?
That is the exact point we are making. You see, our motto says amicus humanis generis, friends of the human race.
Yes.
6 years down the line, you are underpaid. 6 years down the line, you are made worse off. 6 years down the line, you also have families to cater for.
So a few people die is enough?
Oh no, we don't.
To get what you want?
Not exactly so. That is not, but at a point in time, we also have lives to live. We also have families to cater for. How long should we suffer because somebody in government, for one reason or the other, doesn't want to act?
Well, on the phone line is Public Relations Officer at the Ministry of Health. Good evening to you, Tony Goodman. Thanks for your time on today's big story. Hello, Mr. Goodman, you're on today's big story.
Good evening, my sister.
Well, members of GOSPA are giving government up to close of Wednesday, that's actually tomorrow, to meet their demands. Failure to do so, they say they will completely withdraw their services, including emergency services. How's the ministry handling the matter, considering the lives of people are at stake?
Thank you very much, Aisha. We are doing our bit as a ministry. As mentioned, when government is mentioning this regard, it means that actors like the Ministry of Fair Wages and other institutions must do their part, which I'm clearly aware that this issue is before the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. They've also gone to Labour Commission. At a point in time, they went to the court for some ruling on this issue. So for us in the Ministry of Health, we are not looking at that aspect. What we are looking at is the patient, because that is not our mandate. Our mandate is not to discuss people's salary and all that. We do what we call the grading structure and submit for further consultation with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. Actually, what we are doing in the ministry is to make sure that the patient who go to the hospital is not affected severely by this strike action. That is why we have called on managers in the various hospitals to make sure that service delivery is not curtailed by this strike, that some staff, other officers who are not members of GOSPA are there supervised by the various heads of these pharmacies. That is what we are doing. We've also heard that by tomorrow they may intensify their strike, and the Ministry of Health is looking at it. We are only calling on them to continue the negotiation and call off the strike and go back to work, because we
I understand that negotiation hasn't broken down, and Section 162 of the Act 651 states that if you are having negotiation, you don't go on strike. So we have taken solace in that, and we are only asking them to continue the negotiation and take care of our patients.
It doesn't look like negotiation is going very well. How sure are you they will call off their strike tomorrow? Listening to them, it doesn't look like they've reached any compromise yet.
Yes, when we read the statement, we realized that the tempers are still high, and we have to go to the rescue of the patient. So we have also summoned our managers from the various facilities for them to come so that we can see how best we can save the patient in this trying time.
Well, many thanks to you. Tony Goodman is the Public Relations Officer at the Ministry of Health. We can also get a response from the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and we'll listen to the Public Relations Officer, Elankra.
It's unfortunate that it has had to come to this, but it's not entirely accurate that the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission hasn't done anything about their concerns. A number of them were brought to us. We have worked and accepted most of them, and we're left with just a couple of them that we believe will not be consistent with the policy. In any case, the agreements that you're talking about were just recommendations. I'm sure they've mentioned some from the ministerial committee, something from Chief of Staff's office, etc. They are just recommendations, and it's up to us at the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to ensure that those recommendations are consistent with the policy. At the moment we shift it or apply anything that is not consistent with the policy, it will affect other areas of the structure.
Okay, Mr. Ankra, just one thing to add. You've mentioned that you have been dealing with their issues for a while now. Some of them you've dealt with. There are a couple more. How many have you dealt with?
Well, there were concerns with their grading structure, and there were parts that we adjusted. There were concerns with other parts of their position on the structure, which we dealt with, and they themselves will confirm that. In fact, the last time we met at the National Labour Commission, the representatives of GOSPA themselves said there have been tremendous improvements with in their negotiations with Fair Wages and Salaries Commission.
Okay, those are the ones you've mentioned. How about the interim market premium? That's one of the first things they mentioned as one of the things you have not fixed. Why has it become difficult for you to do it?
Good one. The thing about the interim market premium is not it is not true. I mean, GOSPA will have to be very fair with us. It is not true that they are not enjoying interim market premium. GOSPA is indeed enjoying interim market premium. Their problem there is they want to be given the same premium as another group which is also on the single spine pay policy, and it doesn't work like that. So they are not talking about
on the same level to get the same amount, and not the disparity they're seeing.
This is the thing. They gave us the figures. Now, the way we compute the interim market premium is consistent with the number of additional duty hours. You know, they were enjoying additional duty hours allowances. Before you get interim market premium, you should be able to indicate what premium you were enjoying prior to your coming onto the single spine. And they were enjoying additional duty hours, and they computed the number of hours, and we used that to set what they earn in terms of interim market premium. But at the moment, they are not looking into what is in their plate before them. They are looking into somebody else's plate to push to get what they are looking for.
Isn't it also because what's on their plate is not enough, and that's why they're asking for more?
Well, it's about additional duty hours. We don't work in the health services. We work with the figures they bring to us. And so it's the number of hours, and that was how it was computed, and we arrived at the figure. And as at then, they did not have an issue with it. In any case, government white paper has been issued in connection with how we apply market premium and how we manage interim market premium. And it is clear in there that straight after the institution of the government white paper, all negotiations on interim market premiums ceased. So at the moment, there is nothing we can do. And this is not a decision of Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. This is a directive from government, and it's on the white paper, which is entirely quotable.
So it means that as GOSPA continues with this action and with their demands, there is no way you meet them at their point of demand?
That sounds a bit harsh, but the thing is, if we had the opportunity to do so, we could. But how it is applied on the single spine. For instance, just imagine if let me use a pidgin word, if we lose guard and say, okay, well, we don't want gospel to go on, extend their strike, so let's give them what they want. You could just imagine what will happen from other sectors, because other sectors will want to push for more, but the thing is, there is a line, there's a drawn line as to how far we can go when we are implementing this.
But Mr. Ankra, are you also considering the ones that are suffering here? Yes, it may be a push and pull between gospel, fair wages, and government, but the ones that are suffering are those who walk to the pharmacies in dire need of the drugs. How about them? How do you equate them in this whole scenario?
It is so sad that the taxpayer will have to suffer as a result of this. First of all, let's remember, according to the Labour Act, and this is not Fair Wages and Salaries Commission speaking, the Labour Act says essential services are not supposed to go on strike. GOSPA are essential services and they are on strike. The Labour Act does not give conditions at all. It says essential services. The Labour Act actually directs that within a number of days, their issues must be addressed. And I'm sure they will advance.
That it's been 6 years, not 3 days.
Yeah. But then the Labour Act does not say whatever essential services demand must be given to them. Then you can imagine. The Labour Act says within 14 days, it must be addressed. And we have addressed it. Gospel keeps going and coming back. You can imagine some of their issues on negotiations. We have negotiated with everyone in the health sector. All of them are satisfied. All of them have gone back. It is only gospel that keeps coming back with the same thing over and over and over again. Somehow, they believe that persistence will shift the fair wages position. But unfortunately, we are working with rules and regulations. And until those rules change, unfortunately, we have to remain that way. But remember, those who are suffering are the taxpayers. Let's bear this at the back of our minds. Pharmacists are enjoying salaries every month. Pharmacists are enjoying allowances every month. Pharmacists are enjoying interim market premium, what they are on strike for, which people are suffering on. They are enjoying their interim market premiums at the moment. So let's not give the picture that there is mass suffering out there and there is deprivation out there. They are enjoying completely what they are entitled to on the single spine pay policy. People are suffering. People with serious health conditions are suffering because the pharmacists are turning down what they have been offered so far, and they really are not looking into the suffering that is being meted out to people.
Okay.
So that was Head of Public Affairs, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, El Ankra. Now, also, government has appealed to the striking teachers of colleges of education to resume work with immediate effect and return to the negotiation table to resolve the issues relating to their status, but seem to be failing on, all these calls seem to be falling on deaf ears. The teachers have, for the past 4 years, been pushing for an upgrade of their current status to that of teachers of other tertiary institutions to enable them enjoy the same benefit. Now, joining me in the studio is Labour consultant Ben Arthur. Many thanks for joining me, Ben Arthur. We've heard GOSPA is on strike. CETAC is also on strike. Yeah. Now, we are even hearing of threats of some association of students, National Association of Students, who wants to also picket and demand for something else. Why are we having so many agitations, in a short while?
Thank you again, and let me say hello to all your cherished viewers. We have predicted here on this platform severally that people who are getting dissatisfied with their conditions definitely have the right to go on strike. And what we are seeing is just probably our predictions coming true. It's not just the National Ghana Graduate Student Association and the rest who just want to picket. I have picked information reliably that the National Association of, whether they are recognized or not, those who have just passed out community health services and those who have done the nursing training and have not been posted. Some of them for the past 2 years, 3 years, for a year, they are also planning, and I'm sure maybe next week the government will hear of them. Like that. But essentially, when conditions are not getting better for workers, and in Ghana, especially public sector workers who have the momentum of their numbers, definitely they resort to strike, especially when they feel that their voices have not been heard. That's what they do.
But this is pretty bad, especially, and I want to find out the implications of all of these, especially the ones that put the lives of people at stake.
As a labor consultant, I'm unable to say that all other strikes do not put the lives of people at stake. Okay. But of course, those engaged in essential services, such as in the health sector, exactly. There are emergencies that if they are not available, we all suffer. It's not just in terms of loss of lives, it is also loss of revenue to the state and loss of good image, loss of investment drive, and our reputation as a nation, whether others should sacrifice for us or not. So there's a whole host of issues at stake. Again, the government normally, especially when the essential services sector workers go on strike, which they are not supposed to according to the law, but you could see that in almost all the cases that especially I have followed, recorded or studied, the government has a hand in it. So the government is not bold enough to come out to say that, look, you are not supposed to go on strike. The law says that if somebody embarks on strike and there's a loss, it is supposed to be redeemed from that group of workers. But government continues to pay workers who are going on strike, whether it is legal or illegal, simply because government finds itself as also to blame in some of these strikes. So we have a whole host of things to lose. In my recent studies, I found out that about $197 million is lost annually to strikes because people don't produce, they go on strike,
and they are paid.
They are paid. And it's not just the loss of revenue to the state because of the strikes, but the services that were not rendered. And those businesses and individuals who depend on the services that were not rendered, for their livelihood, they also incur a lot of losses. Well, so it's a huge impact on our society.
And you talk about government brushing some of these issues because they themselves are at fault. For instance, we've heard about GOSPA, whose issue has been on the table from August 2015. We've heard about CTAG, whose issue has been there for the past 4 years. What has been the problem with government? Why has government not been able to resolve these issues at the initial stages and then wait for issues to get out of hand?
I'm not in government, so I don't intend
to. But from where you said you could.
Yes, but as a consultant, we have three-dimensional issues to this. One is a structural problem. For example, if you look at the Labor Act, that says that if a dispute in the essential services sector occurs, within a matter of 24 hours, you ought to handle it. A matter within 3 days, you should be able to, handle that dispute. But I'm telling you, the kind of bureaucracies we have in the public sector is such enormous that you will not be able to assemble a negotiating team in 3 days. So obviously, with good faith, it's possible, but without good faith, it is woefully inadequate, the number of days. So we have not had any good report from the number of the 3 days that have been given. If you put the 3 days aside, there's supposed to be a compulsory arbitration within a matter of another 3 days, and within 7 to 14 days, if there's a compulsory arbitration, the matter ought to be dispensed of. But I'm telling you, sometimes getting government officials to open channels of communication to even listen to their employees is difficult. Structurally too, there's a difficulty. For example, if you're in the public sector, you would have to go through a lot of channels and stages of negotiation. We don't have a well-defined employer in the public sector as we speak. Is it the Public Services Commission, which is a mother employer in this case, or the health service? We are talking about GOPSA. The direct employer is Ghana Health Service. But Ghana Health Service need to go through Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. They need to go through Ministry of Health. They must go through Ministry of Finance, a whole host of channels. And again, if you look at the structure of labor dispute resolution too, we have a whole host of issues that we think probably this platform is inadequate to address them. But structurally, we are not too aligned in getting some of these disputes resolved. Coming back to the CTAG issue, You know, there was a law passed in 2008. We call it Ghana Education Act 778 that recognized them or that mentioned them as a tertiary institution.
Right.
Then we went ahead in 2012 to pass the Colleges of Education Act 847. And then by 2011, there had been a committee put in place to recognize and to help them transition from the post-secondary to a tertiary institution.
Level.
Now, what was involved in that transition? And I can tell you for a fact that the job that has not been done too well, the committee that has not been resourced too well, the kind of groupings that has not been resourced too well to function, these are the effects that we are getting. In fact, when we talk about colleges of education, we are talking about employees there numbering about almost 2,000 workers.
Exactly so.
2015, I could recollect that they had about 3 PhD holders, 200 and something people with masters and MPhil, and it's a whole host of people that we are talking about.
Right.
So if you don't listen to them for the past 4 years or more, when you have declared them as being a tertiary institution, of course there are dysfunctional issues to discuss. If you say an institution is a tertiary institution, we expect that National Accreditation Board will come in and probably give them the necessary accreditation. You also give them the infrastructure to function as such. All these things have not been done.
My time is up, but I briefly want you to touch on the fact that the National Labour Commission has sued the GOSPA in court. GOSPA says that they will not be successful because they don't have any local standard to go to court. But I want to find out, what does the law say, and has GOSPA breached any law? Briefly, very briefly.
When you say what have they gone to court with, as to whether to declare the strike as legal or illegal, I don't want to preempt what the judges are going to say. But it is within the right of GOSPA to go to court. It is also within the right of National Labour Commission to go to court. Let me quickly add here that National Labour Commission, unfortunately by the setup, has not gotten powers to enforce its own decision. That is the kind of lame leg that we have for National Labour Commission, and it's most sad for us and
very, very unfortunate. Many thanks to Ben Arthur for coming to the today's big story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. We've been talking about so many labor agitations coming around the same time. The biggest is GOSPA, who wants to withdraw their services, including emergency services, by close of Wednesday if government does not hear their demand. This is today's big story. Many thanks for watching. Good evening.